I want to talk a little bit about the Lakers here before we hop off here. The Lakers, they are a contender. As crazy as it is to say, the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers, are contenders. I really, from my standpoint, look at the Los Angeles Lakers. Um, I I would not be shocked if LeBron goes on another playoff run. LeBron has just done amazing things in this NBA, in the National Basketball Association. Just amazing things. Obviously, made the finals. What 9 out of 10 years, 8 years in a row. Won the Eastern Conference and won championships that just seemed impossible. When you think about 2016, LeBron James is going up against the 73-9 Warriors team down 3-1, comes back in that series with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, other teammates around him: Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith, Amon Shumpert. Those guys are important too, but LeBron James spearheaded that operation for the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 2016 NBA playoffs and did something that seemed impossible. Won a 28-3 Tom Brady-esque championship. LeBron did that year, 2016. But then in 2020, LeBron wins another title in the bubble for his fourth. And that was a championship that was in limbo for quite a while because the NBA season obviously was paused for 4 months and came back in August, September. The finals were, I believe it was at the end of September, end of October, if I'm not mistaken, for the NBA finals. But LeBron wins there, rallies the Lakers there in the bubble in Orlando to win an NBA championship. We've seen LeBron do seemingly impossible things in this era. At age 40, LeBron James is doing impossible things every single night. From that standpoint, what makes me a non-believer in the Lakers or LeBron James potentially making a run? Nothing. Nothing. Because LeBron James at age 40 is still somehow a top 10 NBA player. He's still a top 10 NBA player. I'm sorry. His IQ, his ability out on the floor. He's 40 and he's still bigger, more athletic than some of these guys coming into the league and have been in the league already. LeBron James is doing the impossible at 40 already, and you pair him up with Luka Doncic, who is arguably a top three, if not top five, NBA player. And I'm looking at this situation in Los Angeles going, look, the Lakers, they have two top, arguably, they have at least one top five NBA player right now in Luka Doncic. So you have one top five player in Luka Doncic. Your other superstar player is arguably a top 10 player in LeBron James, who is maybe a top one player all time. And then the rest of the Lakers roster, it's all scrappy guys who can go out there, can defend, can hit a 3-point shot, and can mesh well and be uplifted by Luca and LeBron. Guys like Austin Reeves, guys like Rui Hachimura, Jordan Goodwin. He's getting a run out with the Lakers right now. And yes, everybody looks at the Lakers roster and goes, "Oh, there's no big man. Jackson Hayes, your only big guy, and Alex Lynn, Christian Koloklo. How you guys? How are the Lakers going to make a run with no big men in the West?" That's a good question. I will say the Lakers are definitely lacking big men, but the Lakers are not lacking size. They're not lacking size. The only short player on the Lakers, the one player you look at and go, okay, his size is a little questionable, it's Gabe Vincent. It's Gabe Vincent, and Gabe Vincent has played better, certainly better as of late for the Los Angeles Lakers than he started his career out with the Lakers playing. But Gabe Vincent is also somebody who can get after it on the defensive end of the floor, even though he's a shorter player. Kind of reminds you of Peyton Pritchard in a little sense there. But the Lakers, they have guys who can defend multiple positions with size. With size. Think about some of these forwards for the Los Angeles Lakers. They are nearly the size of some centers. Some centers out there, 6'10, 6'11, might be 6'9 in some cases on the lower side. Obviously, some of the bigger ones can get over 7 foot. But the Lakers forwards, a lot of 6'8 guys, a lot of 6'9 guys, a lot of guys who can rival the height and physicality and size of other big men in the Western Conference, specifically a guy like Nikola Jokic. And that's what was so interesting seeing the Lakers and the Nuggets play is the fact Nikola Jokic thought for most of the game he was stifled by some of the Lakers defenders, some of the Lakers physicality, some of the Lakers size, and the Lakers tried to double Nikola Jokic in the game in the Saturday primetime game in Denver. They did the Lakers, but I look at the Lakers right now with Luka and LeBron, two arguable top 10 NBA players right now, two of which Luka just made the Western Conference Finals in 2022, finally made the finals in 2024. I had a point earlier this season saying the Nuggets and the Mavericks, they could go back to back in terms of making the finals, or back and forth, I should say, in making the finals out west because they had the two best half court players in Luka and Jokic. But Luka's on the Lakers now. LeBron James is his teammate. The Lakers have size to defend. They have the versatility to defend. They have guys who can hit 3-point shots. Why can't the Lakers go and make a run in the West? I will say there's more questions surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers right now in the West as a contender than some of the teams around them. I mean, you look at the Thunder, the Rockets, the Grizzlies, the Nuggets, they've all been together for this full year, if not multiple years. Whereas the Lakers, they've been together for what, 3 weeks, essentially, which is going to put more questions surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers. But if you really look at the squads out there, there are a lot of teams in the Western Conference that are young and arguably trustworthy. Because really, in the Western Conference, that is a huge question right now with some of the top contending teams that people really like, but are a little on the fence with. Think about the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're really the dominant team out west right now, and they're dominating as much as the Cleveland Cavaliers are out east. Yet people look at the Oklahoma City Thunder's age, the median age of the Thunder, and they go, which is young. I will say it's young. They look at the Thunder and go, uh, is this young team experienced enough? Are they prepared enough for the NBA playoffs? They were prepared last year to go up in the first round against the Pelicans, swept the Pelicans, but then in the second round, who got the best of the Oklahoma City Thunder? It was Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. And I do have questions surrounding the Oklahoma City Thunder in regard to if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if he is compromised to some degree in the playoffs, you're not gonna fully shut him down, but you're gonna compromise him a little bit or try to take something away from his game in the playoffs by a team. If the Thunder see SGA compromised, who's their next guy? Is Jalen Williams going to be able to take over in those moments? Do the Thunder have enough on their roster with Holmgren and specifically Jalen Williams in terms of star power to go out there and take over games and take over moments in the NBA playoffs? That is still to be answered. I think that's a fairly, you look at the Thunder and really recent NBA history or all of NBA history, a team as young as the Thunder, it's very rare they break through and make the NBA Finals this soon. And we know how good the Thunder are running away with the number one seed. They were the number one seed last year in the West on the last day of the season as well. But the Thunder in history, not too many teams this young break through and have deep playoff runs, see consistent success in the NBA playoffs. And considering that as well, we'll say the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're oddly enough the franchise with the most experience from a young team breaking through and making the finals because the Thunder really, they were the last club to do that. The 2012 Thunder with James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. That MVP level big three the Thunder had long ago. That team was a very, very young squad on par with this Thunder squad, in which broke through and made the NBA Finals. So the Thunder, there is some experience from that standpoint as a franchise, but with this specific team, will this specific Thunder team with SGA, Chet, Jalen Williams, Hardenstein, Alex Caruso, will they all be able to break through as young of a squad as the Oklahoma City Thunder have? That's where the Lakers, if you look at their players, a lot more experience on the Lakers roster, obviously with LeBron James. The Lakers can slow the Thunder down a little bit. The Thunder like to play with pace, like to cut a lot. Can the Lakers take away those cuts with a lot of physicality, a lot of bumping, And can they slow the game down? Can they take a little bit of that pace away from the Oklahoma City Thunder? The Lakers can certainly do that. But looking at other teams like the Rockets, again, very young team, kind of the same conversation as the Oklahoma City Thunder, even less so because the Rockets weren't in the playoffs last year, whereas the Thunder were the number one seed last year and even made a tiny little playoff run there to the semifinals against the Dallas Mavericks. So the Rockets, they have even more questions as a young team than the Oklahoma City Thunder, as most of their core still very, very young. But looking at other teams, such as, say, the Memphis Grizzlies, a little bit more experienced of a team, but people have questions surrounding the Grizzlies' depth, and they have questions surrounding the availability of Ja Morant. Ja Morant, he's almost a Joel Embiid level player when it comes to playing games. I mean, really, Ja Morant plays every other game, and it's a surprise when Ja Morant is out on the floor. And when you're talking about one of your best superstars, your best players, if you're the Memphis Grizzlies, if you're talking about him in a sense of being in and out of the lineup as much as Ja Morant's been this season, that's definitely a team that people aren't going to trust come playoff time. And just to, not, if you look at the reliability of them and in the regular season, what makes anyone think that Ja Morant is going to be able to play consistently come playoff time? And if your star player is missing that many games on that many occasions, and that's really what we want to hone in on here, it's not as if Ja Morant has missed a bunch of time and just, oh, say missed the first 20 games of the season or missed a slew of 20 games within the season just because of an injury. It's not been like that with Ja Morant. It's been, oh, he'll play 2 games, then he's not playing 2 games, then he'll play a game, then he won't play a game, then he'll play 3 straight games, and then he's out for 4 games. I mean, that's the kind of schedule Ja Morant will go through. It's not some of this, oh, well, he missed 10 games because of a strain here, and now he's back in the lineup. It's never like that with Ja Morant. He's always in and out of the lineup constantly. And for your superstar, if you're the Memphis Grizzlies, you can't be feeling confident that Ja Morant's availability is an availability in which can last 4 straight rounds in the NBA playoffs in the toughest moments against some of the toughest competition in the world. I mean, the Memphis Grizzlies, for as quality of a team as they've been this season, for as great as Taylor Jenkins is as a head coach, coaching that team up, uplifting the role players on that roster, some of the younger players on their roster. The Grizzlies, there are just too many holes surrounding the availability and the look of the squad that definitely make people a little bit queasy about Memphis come playoff time. Then going down the list, you have the Denver Nuggets, who really, the Denver Nuggets, I think most people trust the Denver Nuggets as much as any other team out there because really looking at the history and looking at, I would say, just the Nuggets in general, the Nuggets have the best player in the entire NBA. So, for one, the Nuggets will have an advantage in almost every single series, pretty much every single series, of having the best player out on the floor, which certainly does something to your ball club when you have the best player in basketball on your team. That's just plain and simple right there. The Nuggets have the best player, Nikola Jokic. Could be a 4 or 5 time MVP out there if voters really felt that way about Nikola Jokic. The numbers certainly say that, but the voters, they get a little fatigued over time. But the Nuggets, they have the best NBA player on their team. Their experience from the standpoint of they've won the NBA championship 2 years ago in 2023. Last year, they were defeated at home in a game 7 by a Minnesota Timberwolves team constructed specifically to beat the Denver Nuggets. And yet this year, the Denver Nuggets come in clearly little bit of a degraded squad from what they've seen in the past. Obviously, Bruce Brown leaves to the Pacers after their championship season. Contavious Caldwell Pope leaves last year to the Orlando Magic. Yet, looking at those deals and the way those players have been really thrown around by other teams, the Denver Nuggets kind of lucked out on not paying Bruce Brown and Contavious Caldwell Pope. And yet, right now, this Denver team, although they lucked out on not paying those guys, they still miss them from the standpoint of, well, that's just less talent on the squad in general. But Denver has found it elsewhere. They found it in guys like Russell Westbrook, who's actually been a solid option for the Denver Nuggets this season on a minimum deal. Came in with the Denver Nuggets last offseason, really playing their sixth man of the year role. And he's actually been a solid option for the Denver Nuggets. I mean, really, Russell Westbrook, the way his back half of his career has gone, outside of being with the Los Angeles Lakers here, Russell Westbrook's fit in nicely with some of the teams he's been on as a cutter, a guy who can handle the ball a little bit, a guy who can actually increasingly shoot the ball at a higher clip. Russell Westbrook has fit in well in Denver, and he's also just a guy who can go out there and score the ball consistently in moments where benches typically can. There are a lot of bench players out there that can't consistently score the ball. Russell Westbrook is actually a scoring threat when he comes into the game and handles the basketball. I mean, he was once the NBA MVP. He's certainly gone from those days, but at the same time, Russell Westbrook is somebody that can be relied upon for points off the Denver bench. But other guys out there like Christian Brown, he has taken a step up within his offensive game. He's taken a step up within his defensive game, just a step up overall as a player. Somebody like Christian Brown, he's playing a more Contavious Caldwell Pope like role right now for the Nuggets and filling it well. A guy like Julian Strother barely got any minutes last year, yet this year you can see he's very much a part of the Denver rotation, and even Peyton Watson too is hurt right now. But Peyton Watson is also somebody in which can come in and provide Denver some minutes. So Denver, looking at the Denver Nuggets right now, I think that's really the team out west that most people believe in the most, considering their experience and the star players, the duo at the top. Didn't even mention Jamal Murray in here, but Jamal Murray, he's kind of found his step again. It seemed like last year in the playoffs and even coming into this year, Jamal Murray was not healthy. There was something going on. And I even said at the beginning of the year, Jamal Murray might need to turn into a little bit of a Chris Paul esque player. And he does have some of those shifty tools within his game and that IQ in his game, Jamal Murray does, and some of that skill as a guard in his game to maintain himself in the league. And that was a little scary considering Jamal Murray, he's south of the age of 30, but at the same time, Jamal Murray, he's found a next step. He's found a new step now. So from that standpoint, the Nuggets certainly a more formidable team right now as a contender in the West than they were to enter the season with some of the development of the players, the development of the team cohesion, and the development of I would say the redevelopment of um, the star play of Jamal Murray. But on top of that, the Nuggets, they have the best player in the NBA. And that's why I would say they're likely the most formidable team. They're the most I wouldn't say they're the See, this is the thing. When you say favorite in the West, like there's actually a betting odds favorite or there's an odds market favorite. But at the same time, if you're to gauge the public or really gauge individual people, the favorite in the West, it's probably going to say Oklahoma City just because of the record, the odds, blah blah blah. But it probably should be the Denver Nuggets right now, just because that experience, just because of the way the roster plays, the best player aspect, all of that. But again, you look at the standings, the Nuggets. Will they have home court in some of these series? Where will they fall in the NBA standings if they do? Because the Lakers right now they're at number 2. So in a series between the Nuggets and the Lakers have the home court in that scenario. And really, you just look at the main point here, the entirety of this point, and I'm getting a little long-winded, kind of talking about each individual West team here, but the Lakers, if you look at all the West teams, why can't it be them? I mean, I hate to advocate for this as a Celtics analyst here, but I'm just being real. The Lakers, with what they have on their roster, they have shooting, they have physicality, they have defense, they have two top 10 NBA players in Luca and LeBron. And those will be questions. Those are probably their two worst defenders, Luca and LeBron out there. Probably the Lakers' two worst defenders. There's still a lot of size with the Los Angeles Lakers to work with and muck things up with. I just look at the Lakers relative to everybody else in the West, particularly at the top, and go, why can't it be the Lakers right now? Why can't OKC's young? Memphis, their availability is all over the place. Denver is just a lesser squad than in recent years. The Rockets, still a very, very young team. If you want to go down the line, I wouldn't, the Clippers, they play well, but they are just strikingly mediocre, really. Their star play is just not there on a nightly basis. Kawhi, James Harden, is Kawhi going to play? Is he not going to play? James Harden, we've all had the conversation a million times with him in the past, talking about him going through 4 rounds of the NBA playoffs. The Warriors are actually a team that look like they could add that. You might want to add them to the conversation just a little bit, but their depth is a little bit of a question. Going down the line, Minnesota is that team that a lot of people want to be good because they were last season, and it feels like they should be good just because of their roster. But in reality, Minnesota is just a completely discombobulated mess, specifically on the offensive end of the floor, which last year they weren't that great offensively with one of the more talented offensive centers of all time in Karl Anthony Towns. This year they take Karl Anthony Towns and his efficiency out of the offensive end. Well, out of an already terrible offensive team last year, the one of the I shouldn't say the worst, not worst, but a bad offensive team in the Minnesota Timberwolves last year, they take out one of their best offensive gems in Karl Anthony Towns. What does everybody think is going to happen? It's going to be discombobulated offense. It's going to be stagnant offense. It's going to be Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, whoever thought they could actually play together. They can't. They absolutely cannot. They're both tremendous ball stoppers. Minnesota Timberwolves aren't going anywhere in this year's playoffs, unfortunately. After last year's run, the Timberwolves are going, unfortunately, nowhere. But if you just look at the entirety of the West, I mean, really, the Lakers, they're there at number two. They're just as formidable as any other team. And all of a sudden, people are going, "Oh, they're not contenders. Luka and LeBron, this is a wasted season." Blah blah blah. That's really not the case in Los Angeles. That's really not the case. They're here to compete. The Los Angeles Lakers are here to compete with LeBron James and Luka Doncic. And really, what we're seeing here, right here, no, can't get the points the right way. Boston, LA, this could be your NBA Finals. And it wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't shock me one bit whatsoever. It really wouldn't. But if that is the case, the Boston Celtics in this contest proved themselves to be maybe a little bit, maybe a little better, not a lot better than the Los Angeles Lakers. As the Boston Celtics, they defeat the Los Angeles Lakers 111 to 101 at the Garden. Talking there for about 20 minutes on the Lakers and their ability to contend. I really do believe this Lakers team could make some noise come playoff time in the West. The West every year with the Western Conference, just so interesting. East, I don't know what it is with Eastern Conference teams. Maybe it's the markets out east, bigger markets, more complacency within the fact of just selling tickets, putting butts in seats. But out west is just competitive. Out east feels like the tiers are set for the teams, whereas the West, it's the wild West. I think you can certainly deem that to be true about the NBA's Western Conference because right now the teams you have across the board in the standings, I mean, you're looking at all the way down to the sixth seed. Really, the Warriors. I know the Clippers are a little bit ahead of them, but really looking at the Western Conference standings, anybody 1 through 6, maybe excluding the Clippers. So 1 through 6 throughout the Clippers. So 5 teams in the West, I think, could actually win the Western Conference this year, just looking at their abilities. We've already gone through each team, but the Western Conference, every single year, it's just this huge, crazy mess of the top teams. You don't always believe in the top teams, the mid tier teams. They're not quite as good as the top tier teams, but still on a level in which they could challenge them and even beat them in a series. We've seen that so many times play out in the NBA's Western Conference.